My dad absolutely hated arcade games. He thought they were a waste of money, and rightly so, but being the fun parent, he seldomly ever said no to me. He gave me $2 worth of quarters.
Oh, here!
Which was the equivalent to $6 in today's money. My father was by no means a wealthy man. He was a professional dry cleaner, one rung higher than a professional shoe salesman. My family was upper poor class. The house was paid off. Both of my parents had their own vehicles. We had cable TV. We ate out once a week. We went on a single yearly vacation, and it was always to my father's hometown, Brownsville, Texas. But one thing we didn't have was a VCR or a $1,500 camcorder. And if we did, my parents certainly weren't going to let a 10-year-old carry around such an expensive device, recording shit for no damn reason, like certain other retro channels whose families actually had money. On our weekly nights out, we'd frequent one of several fast food restaurants in the area. Two of my favorites were of course the ones that had arcade machines, Griff's and Pizza Inn. My dad knew exactly what this meant. He'd be out another $2. Griff's is a small burger chain, nowhere near as big as McDonald's or Burger King. Back in the 80s, they had this iconic A-frame building with a glass wall in front. They had a jukebox playing 80s rock and a few arcade cabinets. High school kids hung out with their friends, and while Dad was waiting on our order, he let me play the arcades. Likewise, there was nothing like smelling Pizza Inn pizza the way they used to make them, and playing Donkey Kong at the same time. It's nighttime, people are winding down from their blue-collar jobs. Any Way You Want It from Journey is playing in the background. We're never going to get that kind of atmosphere back. One thing I think we've lost is the sense of community. These places brought people together. Now fast food can be delivered and games can be played online. It's just not the same. Everyone is at home being agoraphobic hermits. What currently passes for a gaming community pales in comparison. But I digress. Growing up in the 80s, I got to play all the classics. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, Q*bert, Donkey Kong Jr., Galaga, Centipede, Exodus, Space Invaders. You get the idea. It was the arcade boom, peak capitalism. Imagine getting up to catch Pac-Man the cartoon, eating a bowl of Pac-Man cereal while wearing Pac-Man pajamas, and maybe even play Pac-Man later on a mini Pac-Man arcade, which I totally had. Everybody had Pac-Man fever. Well, except Dad. He never understood the whole video game craze of the early 80s. All these kids just throwing away money just to play a few minutes of nonsense. I guess he just didn't realize that it was just another form of escapism. Not unlike spending a day fishing or playing golf. You're kind of wasting money doing those things too. Video games are a little different. You tune out the outside world while playing, and sometimes that's a good thing. Arcade games were simplistic. Pac-Man eats the pellets and avoids the ghosts. Q*bert hops on the squares while avoiding extra-dimensional creatures. Mario climbs up ladders while avoiding barrels. Simple in nature, yet very challenging. The real world and its problems take a back seat while your mind focuses on playing these games. And it wasn't like I was any good at these games. I was never going to make millions of dollars selling hot sauce or get to sue Carl Jobst. Most of my arcade sessions lasted about 10 minutes. Slot jockeys lasted longer than I did. At least they had a chance to win something. As far as my dad was concerned, I might as well have thrown the money out a window, and I wasn't doing the game protagonist any favors either. Once the quarter hit the coin box, a tragedy would unfold. Imagine the disappointment in my father's face as the last hope of mankind explodes in the first 5 seconds. Pauline was going to get destroyed by Donkey Kong because Mario couldn't even make it up to the second floor on stage 1. You couldn't even get to the gorilla, son? It's harder than it looks, Dad! As mentioned, my dad was the fun parent, forcing my mother to be the disciplinarian, which in hindsight was really unfair to her. Being the fun parent, my dad would humor most of my requests, within reason. I remember dragging him to different places across the city just to play Tron. Damn, that was a great movie, and the game was okay too, I guess. The only stage of the game I really liked was the light cycle part, but you commonly had to play the other shitty stages before you could get to it. However, I sucked, so I usually died before getting there, but it was totally worth playing through all the rest of that crap. Check out that cabinet, it's gorgeous. I think what I miss most about the 80s is the style. Creative minds allowed to flourish. It's insane to think that 30 years before the 80s was the 50s. In the span of 3 decades, visual art, music, film, and fashion evolved so drastically. In comparison, go back 30 years to 1995. With the exception of the rapid evolution of technology, style and art haven't really changed that much. One might argue that we've taken a step back in the wrong direction, but once again, I've gone off tangent. The most memorable arcade-related event of my childhood was going to Showbiz Pizza with my Cub Scouts troop. Chuck E. Cheese in its prime was nowhere near as good as Showbiz Pizza back in the day. It was more like a giant arcade than what modern Chuck E. Cheese's passes for. They had mazes, ball pits, tubes to crawl through, skee-ball, probably about 50 arcade cabinets, and when you got tired, you could always sit down, eat some pizza, and play some more. They even had an animatronic band called the Rockfire Explosion, led by the iconic Billy Bob the Bear. Chuck E. Cheese got rid of their animatronics because they were too cheap and lazy to maintain them. They removed a lot of classic arcade cabinets in favor of ticket-spinning machines that pandered to toddlers. Where a kid can be a kid indeed. In fact, Chuck E. Cheese was a character at Showbiz Pizza until he betrayed and usurped Billy Bob. My dad, in a serious lapse in judgment, spent $100 in tokens so we all could go crazy for a couple of hours.
Oh, here!
Of course, he was the favorite parent that day. I had no idea why he did that. Maybe he wanted to feel like a big shot, impress the other parents. Who knows? But what I remember most was being allowed to play to my heart's content. I left Showbiz Pizza on my own accord. As far as an 8-year-old was concerned, I had played enough arcade machines to last a lifetime. As an adult, it makes me feel bad that I treated my dad like an ATM. My father had very few hobbies. He liked watching television, eating processed meats, was a firearm enthusiast, but judging by the lengths he went to indulge my unhealthy gaming obsession, perhaps the interest that took priority was making his son happy. My fondest memories of my dad were our journeys to arcades. In one way or another, my father fostered my love for gaming. Thanks, Dad.
Like and subscribe to Ames Academy now.